Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ece Algan, and I'm the Faculty Mentoring Program Director here at CSUSB. And it's so wonderful to see you. And thanks for joining us. And we have a very, very important workshop with Dr. Jess Block Nerren. Uh, she is going to help us kind of make sense of the accommodation letters. And I still, I've been in this university for a while, and I sometimes still see things that I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this one? So I always welcome, her workshop. And so let me introduce her to you. Uh, Dr. Naren is a researcher of disability inclusion, public relations, and teacher education, and she serves as a full-time faculty member at CSUSB in the Department of Communication and Media. In 2023-24 academic year, and again this academic year, Dr. Naren is the Disability Inclusion Faculty Fellow here. Previously, she served as interim faculty director of the Services to Students with Disabilities Office, where she oversaw accommodations for over 2,000 students attending the university. She's the editor and contributing author of the scholarly book, Rethinking Perception and Centering the Voices of Unique Individuals, Reframing Autism Inclusion in Practice. So without further ado, welcome, Jess, and the floor and the screen is yours. Now you have access to screen share if you'd like to do that.
Love it. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, AJ, for your warm welcome and your fabulous introduction. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. You're here because you are taking the time to really care about including all of your students. And for that, I commend and thank you so much. And I have a very fluffy dog who's decided to come over and visit me in my Zoom and commend all of you as well. So if you see me patting something, it's just a very fluffy poodle that has stopped by to say hi. So welcome and thank you. And this is important for all the right reasons, right? So I have you for your lunchtime. Thank you for doing this during your lunchtime. And so that I don't go over and so that I honor and value your time and how important it is, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let me kind of get all my ducks in a row here. And what we'll do is this is a bit of an opportunity for a two-screen experience. So just so you know, this is being recorded, but nothing is attributable back to you. So you're in a fabulous, mostly anonymized space. If you call out a question, it will identify you. But on Menti, which is what this platform is, in this two-screen experience, if you point your camera here, or if you go to menti.com, and punch in that code, anything that you share through this mechanism is anonymized. And so I'll see your comments, I'll see your questions, but I won't, our recording and our live session, we won't know who it is. And one of the things I'm going to do is live poll you just to get a little bit of a temperature read, because it's so valuable, right? And exactly like Dr. Algan said, we all want to include our students. We're all committed to including our students, but sometimes it's just a mystifying process, right? Sometimes we get a letter and it's like, you know what? I'm not even sure what some of this means. So, what are those 4 easy steps? And great, I see a bunch of people joined. If for some reason you're still joining, there's always a code at the top of the screen as well. So, and you can always ask questions through this platform. Don't know why that's first, but who am I, right? We'll get to this, but there's just an opportunity to know that we're not alone in this always being a constantly evolving and developing process of implementing our students' accommodation. So in that spirit, that's going to be the purpose of our talk today, is to make this a little bit easier for everyone who's here, right? So like Dr. Algan said, I was the faculty director of SSD. So in between permanent hires, I was the person driving that ship, along with my co-director, Dr. Molly Springer, who's AVP of Student Success. That was really fun and really important and really hard. And it gave me an insider's perspective that most faculty members never get a chance to have. I was doing everything from, co-driving the ship to actually doing intake appointments and assigning accommodations. So I can tell you exactly where and why and how accommodations get assigned. Um, and just so you know, I'm also the parent of a disabled child. He's a cancer survivor and he's neurodivergent in a couple of different ways. And I myself, during my sabbatical last year, I was diagnosed with dyscalculia, which is another form of being neurodivergent. So I do this, the work that I do by and with and for parent advocate communities and self-advocate communities. So here's what I want to know first, and I want to invite everyone to share, right? How much of an accommodation letter do I understand, right? For anyone who has students this semester and previous semesters, hopefully, that's all or many of us. Where are we at when we get one of those letters? Are we like, I don't know what any of this says. I hope I'm doing it already, fingers crossed. Do we understand everything that's said on it? Is kind of the spirit something that's understandable, but then some of the named accommodations just way too confusing or too vague, or we don't know where to go or what to do with it from there. Where are we at when we get one of these accommodation letters, right? And I didn't put a slide up that asked this, but like also, how do we feel sometimes when we get these accommodation letters, right? I get feedback from folks that are like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to include people. And I get feedback from folks that are like, how do I rebuild my class 4 days before it starts, right? So sometimes not only is this like a logistical thing, this is something that hits us in particular ways. So thank you for those of you who responded, right? We have 2 most and 5 sums. So that's perfect. You are the perfect audience to be here. And I'm going to be honest with you, even for me, I probably wouldn't be an all, I would probably be a most. And like the difference is that I'm in SSD every single day. So I just have a really easy way of asking and getting information and kind of just jamming in there to get to all in any particular given situation. So I'm that person for you. So if you see something that you don't know or you need to know more about, like I am your personal concierge to give you all of the same resources that I have as a person with like really years long developed relationships with our accommodation shop. Okay, next up, how much of an accommodation letter do I think I may successfully facilitate over the course of a semester? Right. So for those of you who have been here more than 0 semesters, if this isn't your first term here or anywhere else, right? How much are we facilitating? If we look back, honestly and anonymously, right? Thinking about our students with accommodations, where are we kind of at in this spectrum, right? Are we like, yeah, I will like go to the ends of the earth and I did to make sure the student has their accommodations? Are we like, well, I only understood half the letter, so I could really only, facilitate half the accommodations? Yeah, so this is great, right? So how much of an accommodation letter do I think I successfully facilitate over the course of a semester? Most or some. So we think we're doing pretty well. And what I see in this too is that we think that there's an opportunity for us to do, there's always an opportunity for us to expand our understanding, right? So first I want to tell you what my talk today is not to all of you, right? It is not a to-do list for you. I promise all of you are busy. I am your faculty colleague. I am not an administrator. I gave back better pay to not even be in the running to be an administrator. I am your faculty colleague. And I know how busy our lives are when we're teaching. Okay, so I would never ever give a talk that's like, it's so easy. Just give up a day and click all of these buttons and do all of these things. And in all of your free time, then you'll be good. I would never do that because like I would have an ethical objection to giving that talk to all of you because our time is already full. That's inequitable for all of us as teaching professionals here on this campus, right? So I'm not here to give you a to-do list. I am not here to put more work on you. I do not come into this talk with an expectation that you have, quote, free time to take on more, because I know that you do not. This is really a pep talk and an introduction to a concierge service to deliver the resources of the institution to you in regards to implementing the accommodations for your disabled students, right? So that's it. I am here to take labor off you, not put labor on you. So if you at ever any point feel like you have labor being put on you, that is a great time to email me and be like, Jess, help, right? Because not everyone delivers a message that starts to say this up front, but I do for all of the right reasons because we're faculty colleagues together. So if all of a sudden you might hear a message of, set aside a week and then you'll be good. We don't have a week to set aside. We all know that. So talk to me. The institution has obligation. We're part of the institution, but the institution has obligations and opportunity to rise to the occasion to provide accommodations and to include our disabled students. And so my job is to connect you with those resources so that you together with those resources can get it done. And sometimes that's just a matter of an email introduction and finding the right person who sometimes, we're not experts in some of that stuff, but someone else is getting us connected so that the expert in some of that stuff gets it done and keeps our course moving smoothly forward. Okay. And I really, really mean that. And I really believe in it. And that's part of why I'm in this role, is because I believe and I'm proud to believe that this institution is institutionally rising to the occasion to meet this need of our students, okay? What this is 4 easy steps to receiving and providing disability accommodations. There's just 4. I promise, it's easy. We're gonna get you through during your lunch hour. We got this. Okay, so before I get to the 4 easy steps, I just want to tell you where accommodations come from, because most people I ask, they're like, yeah, they come from SSD. And I'm like, but how? And they say, I don't know, it's kind of a black box over there. And that's fair. So I'm going to open up the black box for you so that way you know what I know, right? Accommodations come from a process called an interactive process that's done between a student and their disability specialist, which is a disability counselor. Okay, so students meet with their counselor to engage in an interactive process. It's typically a one-time meeting, there's exceptions. And in that interactive process, that disability counselor, an hour long. So we can't do this already, right? Because we don't have an hour for all of our disabled students, and we're not disability counselors. And we really want those accommodations to flow from SSD, right? We can be accommodating to our students just like we would with anyone, right? If someone experiences trauma unrelated to disability, we're going to be nice to them and we're going to give them grace. But accommodations come from SSD, right? And that way it's not one more job on us, but they come from an interactive process with a disability counselor to understand the functional limitations, right? Like, what is that barrier between the student and the class, right? And that's the functional limitation. So it's not necessarily a diagnosis. It's not necessarily a doctor's note, but we love doctor's notes. If someone wants to give us their IEP, or if someone wants to give us their report from Department of Rehab, like, we will take anything. If someone has a parent report, if someone has a teacher report, we will take any kind of information to get at that interactive process to understand that functional limitation. But we can also take, student self-report, because we are the Inland Empire, and getting a bunch of documentation sometimes is expensive and hard. Okay, so functional limitation, interactive process, and then assign accommodations to address that functional limitation, that barrier, right? In regards to anything that doesn't fundamentally alter the course, right? So not to get in the weeds with this, but fundamental alteration is actually a due process panel. So it's not independently decided by anyone, including SSD, right? So SSD can't go, what? I don't think it fundamentally alters your class, so you therefore shall do it, because it doesn't matter what any one person thinks. If we have a fundamental alteration conversation together, which is like a whole other workshop for another day, it's a group conversation, okay? So it's not, these are all commonly misunderstood things, but I just want to give you like the 5-second version, right? A few unique circumstances that we may also touch here at SSD, and with some of you in the room, I've worked with you on some of these already. This is something that we're really proud of at SSD. We're actually working on scholarly papers on this now and developing models that can be replicated other places, because we have an obligation to accommodate students in anywhere curricular or co-curricular, right? So that includes fieldwork, clinicals, student teaching, placements, internships, places like theater prop masters, language labs, orientation. These all apply to those curricular and co-curricular environments, right? And this applies to us too, okay? So we have 4 interns working in our SSD office right now doing their fieldwork and practicum courses. And so this applies to us at SSD too. So, we're humbled and we approach it with humility. And we want to practice what we preach, and we're working through the steps to make sure that we understand it even better now that we're also a fieldwork site. But you we know that teaching happens in all kinds of different environments. Okay, the 4 steps. Okay, so just if you forget them, just remember it's a-okay. We got this. It's a-okay. Okay, acknowledge, ask questions, organize, and keep going and or keep talking. Okay, so these are the 4 steps of implementing accommodations for your students. Receiving an accommodation letter, what do I do with it? And then how do I proceed with it, right? Acknowledge you got it, make sense of it in some way that works for you, and we'll go through these steps individually. But acknowledge your accommodation letter, make it make sense for you. Okay, so do you make a pile next to your desk in a confidential and locked space? Cool. Do you have like a file in your email where you put all of them? Do you go onto your faculty portal? Acknowledge, right? Like then ask questions, including thinking about how can I build these into my course, right? Ask questions of myself and others. Okay. Organize. So really, if there are logistics associated with some of those accommodations, right? If you have a student with testing accommodations and SSD is proctoring your tests, and I'll give you more examples as we talk about this, but organizing might be that ongoing communication with our office and beyond in order to not only get students to their access, but keep them at their access, right? Or even organizing in terms of like, okay, 3 of these apply to me and 3 of these don't. And then keep going and keep talking to make sure that not only did students get to their accommodations, they stayed there. Or if there's anything that you notice during the term, right? If you notice something, student struggling or students really thriving with these accommodations in place, student may or may not tell us. So us continuing to talk is really amazing and really helpful because you too can be part of that interactive process that we just talked about. If you're like, okay, student has an accommodation to sit in the back of the room, but now I'm noticing that student is squinting at the board. Cool. Tell us, right? We can refer them and resource them to the optometry clinic every month over at the health center. Like we can keep working through these things. We can do another disability accommodations adjustment appointment with the student to go, okay, I know you want to be by a wall, but like, does it have to be the back wall if you can't see? Could it be the side wall? How can we do this different and better is a great conversation that we can have together among faculty, right? So these are your 4 steps of A-OK to disability accommodation and implementation. Okay, so first, acknowledge, right? Receive your letters and process them in any way that makes them make sense for you. Okay. So like I said, that might be a pile, it might be a folder, it might be a file, it might be going on the faculty portal. So this is brand new and this was faculty requested. So we heard all of you asking, I wish there was a digital place where I could check these. So we worked with our provider to make sure that we had that for you on your special request. So there is a faculty portal. The link is here. It is clickable. So you can even open it as a window now, and you can go on that portal at any time and see all of your accommodated students. I love the portal. Because it's so new, there's not tutorial videos yet, but there are tutorial graphics. I will be making tutorials throughout the year so that you'll have even more resources, right? But thinking about applying them into your classes. So if you see accommodations that say testing, that might be a great time to make a calendar reminder for yourself to finalize your tests with enough time to get them to SSD, right? That might be an opportunity to click the bottom of all of your testing accommodations to do the testing contract. And if you already have the tests on file, upload them then, and then you don't even have to worry about it anymore. This might be an opportunity to do, an attendance contract with your student. And you can even ask us to do that meeting together with the student and the disability specialist, right? Again, we're here to concierge you through this process. We can't necessarily like do the Pokemon trading card thing, like yes to this, no to that. But we're here to make it as bizarrely easy on you as humanly possible. And there's lots of ways that we can do that, right? If a student has remote instruction, it might be a conversation where you're like, oh yeah, I already turn on Zoom. That's nothing. You might be like, I have never used Zoom in my life. And we're like, great, we will schedule a class aide to come in and turn Zoom on, and they will facilitate the conversation. So don't lose hope in us, because not only me, but an office of about 25 are here and really deeply committed to the partnership with our faculty. Okay. Real life letters. It's small, but this is an example of a real life letter that's de-identified, right? So, and these links are links to additional examples of de-identified letters. So in each one of these examples, you'll see what it says is this student has accommodations. This is what these accommodations are. Okay, so if you see something you don't know what it means, like the first one on here is Kurzweil, that just means that the student has like an e-text reader. Okay, so if you see something you don't mean, email me. Got you. Not only will I answer it for you, I'll send you a video and a little like glossary link, and you can go as deep or not deep as you want to go. Okay, next. You may see additional notifications that aren't like easy box that we can check, right? Because anything that's reasonable can be an accommodation, right? So for this particular student example, the student has noise canceling headphones. So it doesn't say allowed to play music, but it does say allowed to cancel noise, right? That student might be highly distractible, where maybe it takes them 30 minutes to come back to the task after that student becomes distracted. So noise canceling headphones let them go into their bubble, and are, very deliberate, related to that student's functional limitations. Okay, so that's really the purpose. And if you have questions about what you're seeing, even about like, well, what is the purpose? I'm happy to have that conversation. That's a private conversation. That might be a meeting, right? More than an email. But I can't, we're FERPA together, and I can and will and would be honored to have that conversation with you in the ways that I can have that conversation. There's things I can't disclose. I can't disclose diagnosis. But I can say something similar to what I just said, right? Student might be highly distractible, and we're here to help that student stay in the state of mind that they really need to be in order to maintain access to your class and your test. Okay, so real life letters. Moving on, ask questions, right? As best you can, approach with an open heart and an open mind, right? Shoot me an email. Feel free to shoot the front desk an email too. There's 25 of them. There's only one of me. You can shoot us both an email at the same time. If it's an easy thing, you'll get an answer just back from SSD. If it's like a teaching strategy, right? No one else over there teaches, so you're going to get a me. And we can talk through it together. Like, I'm not here to prescribe anything to you, but I have been in the classrooms, same as you, in some ways, right? Obviously, we teach different stuff. But I have been in CSUSB classrooms. I know the culture. And if I don't have an answer, we do also have faculty level liaisons, college level liaisons in every single college. So I have people I can consult with, and I can even bring them into our conversations who know the culture of your respective college in ways that I never would, right? Because we want to be respectful to the fact that like a bio lab is different than a communications course, and a communications course is different than a computer programming course, and the list goes on, right? And all of those are different than a counseling environment. So each unique circumstance is worthy of unique attention. Each individual student is very individualized as it applies to accommodations, okay? But talk with us about the unique nature of your class. Like, you take a field trip every day, tell me. Like, I need to know that, and I want to know that. And tell me, what makes your course different than any other course that student's been in before. Because I really it helps me to know, right? So a question in that instance might be like, okay, student has front of the class seating, but I take a field trip every day. How might I implement a similar accommodation in a place where I take a field trip every single day? Love that question. And let's figure it out together again, right? I'm not here to prescribe. I'm here to just like be your concierge and help solve puzzles with you while preserving and honoring and valuing your time. If you just don't know what an accommodation means and you have a question, um, or you're like, I just don't want to deal with people. I've dealt with people all day. It's a very extrovert environment here at CSUSB. I just need the answer and I need to move on. There are self-serve accommodation tutorials at the link provided to you here as well, right? And if you shoot me an email and you're like, I need to know about this accommodation, I can shoot you the corresponding self-serve little quick tutorial also. So you don't necessarily have to dig, but if you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. I understand. There is also a really amazing, robust resource there, right? One question that we might never say out loud, but it's worthy of mentioning is, why might this matter, right? So not too long ago, people with disabilities just didn't go to college. And that's the truth, right? They were institutionalized early in life. They were separated from their communities. They were separated from their families. And they were not in community. They were not in the schools. They did not have the right to go to school, in a really robust way until Section 504 in the 70s and the IDEA laws in the 90s. And the ADA as we know it really didn't exist until 2008. So when you think about that, oftentimes within our lifetime, not too long ago, people with disabilities just did not go to college, right? So that makes this a civil rights opportunity. If we're into these things, this is a civil rights opportunity, just clear and simple. This is a DEI opportunity. Disability inclusion addresses marginalization of historically oppressed groups. Period. It really does, right? The population I know best is people with autism in college. Only about 6% of individuals with autism go to college, graduate college, and are employed by the age of 25, right? That is a significantly different kind of number than about the 60% of non-autistic people that reach those milestones. Now, of course, there are comorbid conditions, intellectual disability, et cetera, but a lot of that is stuff outside the individual in systemic and institutional hopefully former barriers, right? And we can all play a role in making them former barriers. So just so you know, plug for something else, this is also known as disability justice. And there is a self-serve course being offered through the Faculty Center for Excellence this semester with a $250 offered stipend to do the self-serve course through FCE. So would love to see you there. And it's made to be very manageable along with your other objectives. Organize. How does this look like in your specific class? Again, right? What are your needs for testing? What tests are you expecting coming up? A student allowed to use a ruler, but you're testing someone about what a ruler is. Let's just have a conversation. I don't know why that would be your test. I love using hyperbole, but if that's your test, let's just have a conversation, okay? How might this look in your specific class? Just kind of play it ahead. You've made your syllabus already. You get these letters, and how do I kind of line these up, right? And it can be really quick and in our head, but there might be little bits and pieces that stand out, and that's what I can be here to help with, right? How do we not only get student to the accommodation once, but throughout the term, right? We might be just rocking and rolling for that first quiz, but do we have 4 other quizzes back when we're like in the weeds of our course? Do we have note taking, and the note taking students, drops the course before census, right? Tell us. You might notice before we do. You might not notice at all, but if you notice, right? Or if all of a sudden the notes that the student's getting are really wacky, they're like, but it was on my notes. Tell us. You or the student are the most likely people to get feedback back to us because you guys know each other in your classroom environment the best, right? So we're here for that. And that's part of the interactive process where we can really serve you and the student the best, because this is a collaboration with SSD and we are here to support. Okay, some common accommodations include note-taking, class recording, test proctoring and accommodation, like something like extra time, alternative formats of reading material, materials requested in your class, like seating location or slide decks, but really many other things might be those reasonable accommodations, just like we talked about before. So this is a handy dandy little graphic, and I can email this to you as well. And we have it displayed in the faculty resources part of SSD. But there's a bit of a spectrum you should know about for the accommodations, right? There's accommodations that nothing is needed from faculty and accommodations where something is needed from faculty. And sometimes even more of something is needed from faculty, right? So over here in like the light blue, priority registration has nothing to do with us, right? Mobility cards have nothing to do with us. No one is asking you to drive a cart around campus, okay? So you might see mobility cards on your letter that has nothing to do with us as teaching faculty. I promise. We take care of that at SSD. Okay, same if it says like personal care attendant, that has nothing to do with us. Please just don't ask the personal care attendant not to come into your room because they might be there attending to that person's personal care needs. Okay, so that is a right that that person would have to have their best access, right? There are other things that become increasingly more involved, right? Class aid, we just have to let the class aid into the room, right? Sign language interpreting, we just have to open the door, right? That's it. We just open the door, the sign language interpreter comes in, done. Service animal, it's a registered service animal with SSD. We just have to let the service animal in, you know, with the student. The student's bringing a pet, tell us that's not coming from us, right? But if they have a service animal, that we just have to let them in, okay? Peer note taking, sometimes there might be that like recruitment student who comes in and visits on a first day to get your peer note taking going. Just simple, easy things, right? Now, all the way on the other side of the spectrum might be those testing contracts, right? How does your test work? We don't know how your test works if you don't tell us. Extra time on tests if it breaks in Canvas, right? We're gonna have to work with you to like fix it in Canvas and with IDOT, right? Extensions for assignments. That's a thing that happens, right? A student might be facing cancer. They might be living in the hospital that week. They might have a baby during their academic semester where when they're busy having a baby, they might not be able to do their paper that week, right? And there are these really reasonable reasons why an extension on assignment might be needed. But we need everyone to have a conversation together about what that reasonable extension is, right? So there's even a form with SSD for that, right? Caption videos, we work with IDAT, we work with the accessibility office, Kevin Kleppy. Caption videos would be letting someone into your course from the accessibility office to caption your videos for you. Nobody's asking you to caption. We just add the accessibility office in, okay? And if you don't know how to do that, I've got a really good video on it and I will help you do it and we can meet and take care of it. All right, and then K, A-OK, keep going and keep talking, right? Let's continue the conversation. You know, I know many of you in this Zoom, and each one of your teaching and learning environments are really unique to you and the subjects that you're teaching and the students that you're serving in any given semester. So let's have those conversations together, because I've really found that an ounce of proactivity is so amazingly rewarding for everyone, including the instructional faculty, because it just makes this such a breeze and so much easier than kind of trying to go backwards and sort it out later. So what to do as the term progresses, right? If something changes, tell us. That could be testing, behavior, stress, performance, implementation. Tell us. We want to know, right? If the class aid stops showing up, tell us, right? Our students are first gen students predominantly too, about 80% of them. So they might be shy to tell us. This might be new to them, their self-advocacy, their disability management. But if you notice something different or missing, we really want to know, right? And it's okay, you know, if you're like, I feel like I want to tell Jess this, but I feel like it's going to sound like complaining. That's okay. I know that you're stressed and I don't ever take it that way. I just take it as like, where the hell did the class aid go? Cool, tell me so I can find out for you and we can get this taken care of, right? We're not in class with you, so we need to know from you and we want to know. And again, you know, that open heart and that open mind, like anything's possible and it's worth it, right? We have the opportunity to do different and better than our predecessors who maybe never even saw a disabled person in their classroom. So we don't have the opportunity to really learn from the past, except what to do better. But we have the opportunity to, you know, be those role models of what the future can look like for our students every day. right? You have more than a fellow, you have a college level liaison as well. For Cal, you've got Nicole Scalisi, for Jack Brown, Taewon Yang. Um, for College of Natural Sciences, we have Phoebe Kim and Lisa Anderson. Social Behavioral Sciences, we have Gino Howard and Jamie O'Quinn, and College of Ed, we have Shannon Sparks. We have a faculty colleague in the library, Sanjeet, and so he is a college level liaison for the library. Um, and with any luck, we might be adding some of our faculty colleagues from a couple other areas where we have faculty colleagues this year as well, right? Because we know we have faculty beyond just our colleges. So lots of good things coming. Tips, you've got this. Communicate early and often. And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Oh, okay. Do I really need to upload exams to the SSD site if I'm teaching an online class? Love this. So no, and I have videos for you where if it's an online class, student can test in their own environment. But there are some interesting, so we would trust that that student taking an online class has the ability themselves to give themselves a distraction-free environment, right? Because they're already doing this. If they want to test in person, that might be a conversation that we might have with you. But otherwise, it's really just addressing the settings to give that student their accommodations for their online testing environment in Canvas, and being prepared in case there's any like weird surprises, that we work together in order to fix that, right? Both with IDAT and with us and with student, right? Sometimes the student can't, so on the student end, they can't tell if they have the extra time until they open the exam. Just so you know. And then they open the exam and sometimes the extra time isn't there. Like sometimes we really think we added it and then it's not there. So then they have an open exam that doesn't have their accommodation in it. And it just becomes a little bit of like everyone trying to reach each other to like close the exam, reopen it, start again, maybe start the exam at a different time, maybe the whole thing's time. There's a whole series of videos on this. So I got you. We will get there. You won't be the only one that's experienced that. But no, for an online, we just need to add the accommodations. Typically, okay, student has an additional time accommodation for exams assignments. Do I automatically schedule that, or do I only implement if the student requests that they need the time? What I recommend is to automatically implement it, because even though, okay, so I've been here since 2017, so tons of you have been here longer than me, and some of you are newer than me. But here's what I know is when I started, the student handed me the letter. Right? And the student would come to my office hours and hand me the letter, right? You think about our teaching environment now, we may never see our students face to face, right? And the student doesn't have an obligation to do that. The student never has an obligation to actually meet with us and go over their accommodations with us, because those accommodations are already assigned to the student. And here's why. Depending on that student's disability, just going that extra step might be a barrier to accommodations and to access for the student, right? That might be so over, let's say the student has like a panic disorder, right? That might be beyond their wildest ability to invoke those feelings to do that additional layer to get their accommodations on board. So what I would recommend is if you see a testing accommodation or any accommodation that requires our adjustment, to just go ahead and make it. If you have questions, you can email me like confidentially. I don't have to ever let the student know that you and I talked about it. But the student does not have an additional layer of obligation to either one, disclose their disability to us, or request beyond their notification letter for their accommodations. That's taken care of by the notification letter, if that makes sense. Okay, I have a letter that says my student needs class aid remote instruction. I teach a fully online course. Then you have met the obligation. You are done, because that's taken care of already. Now, let's say there's a meeting time that you have that involves assessment beyond your fully online course. And this does happen sometimes. Then we would send a class aid. We would need to know of that meeting, and we would send a class aid to turn on the Zoom for that meeting, even though it's an online course. But if it's a fully online course, the remote instruction is already taken care of and it's built in. So that can be another thing. Just even if you want to cover your own bases, you can email me an SSD ad and say, I think all of these don't apply because of the nature of my course. For instance, I teach an online course, so there is no seating preference. There is no remote instruction beyond the fact that it's already remote. So that's always a really welcome communication. So you have that as an option. Okay, it is 12:42. We are getting there. All right, resources, meetings, presentations, anything that you need, I'm here for it. I can help in any way that is helpful to you. Um, so just holler at me. I would love to serve you and or your department and or your program area in any way that's helpful. I have ongoing faculty office drop-in hours. There's also appointments to drop in. There's SSD videos. There's an SSD glossary. My more preferred list of resources was all the way at the front for some reason, so don't mind my obsessive scrolling, but my stuff kind of took a mind of its own. Syllabi language. So there is syllabi language available on the SSD website if you're ever like, I don't know what to put in my syllabus, and a link to our liaisons in addition to myself, plus my cell. Okay, I am here and I mean it so much that you can call me or text me, and and some of you have, and some of you, if you need me, you should again. You can probably say that I do everything I can to be available because I believe in this, right? Like, I myself am neurodivergent. My son is multiply disabled. I believe in this. I would want someone on his college campus to care about him and his success, and you and your success and peace as you teach your semester as much as I do. I make it a point to be as available to you as humanly possible. All right, I'm going to do the obsessive scrolling thing again to get back where we were. Do, 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 do. And, you know, feel free to drop in any thoughts or questions you have. I just want to make sure I got to everything in here as well. Common accommodations and what to do about them. I remember seeing a chart somewhere. So yes, so those common accommodations are in that chart. Let me go back there really quick. So a lot of our common accommodations are like Zoom interpreting, Zoom note taking, alternative seat assignment. Sometimes you'll see even things like changes in lights, things that are no big deal at the end of the day. If we turn on half of our lights instead, who cares, right? Things like specialized, we can't give anything that's a general resource of the institution. So we'll refer students for peer mentoring or specialized academic tutoring, mobility carts, captioning, service animal, transcription. Students have braillers, assistive reading devices, class slides, note taking, either automated or from a peer note taker, extensions for assignments, attendance modifications, test proctoring is really big. And those are some of our most common. Okay. Let me go back to our questions here. Received accommodation letters that students should be provided with frequent breaks. Love this question. Thank you. So this is a really good example of an accommodation that could be for physical or like learning, you know, or mental health reasons, right? It doesn't tell us anything about the student, right? But if the student needs frequent breaks, it's just that that student, without, you know, penalty of their attendance, they might need to get up and excuse themselves without drawing attention to it for, you know, a couple times each class session, right? Let's say you meet for an hour. They might need to get up. You know, if you have questions about like how many times or what does that mean, we can have that conversation, okay? But let's say they boil over with their post-traumatic stress, or let's say they have like a physical adjustment need that needs to happen with their personal care attendant. They might just need to get up, get out, take care of it, and come back in quietly and respectfully. And that there's no like penalty to their grade for their disability related access needs, right? And either one of those, for instance, would be a disability related access need. Let's say they need insulin, right? They just need to get up, get out, give themselves insulin, and get back in. So it's just really a matter of giving them that time and space. If you feel like it's getting out of control, talk to me. I've been involved in this work deeply for a bunch of years. I've never seen one of our San Bernardino students abuse their accommodations. And I'm aware of any, you know, of the kind of like more involved cases, and I've actually never seen it to date. So I don't see that as a possibility. AJ, yeah.
I wanted to ask a follow-up question on this one.
Yeah.
Um, would it be okay to say, well, oh, so and so, um, has the permission to take frequent breaks? Can we announce it like that to class? Because if we cannot, give frequent breaks while we're teaching for the student to, I mean, depending on, let's say it's really frequent breaks, like the student needs a break every 30 minutes. I mean, now, of course, our classes are much shorter, like an hour and 15 minutes. So I guess that would be okay. But if it's like if the student needs to just get up and move whenever the student is feeling overwhelmed, for instance, then and we don't know when that would happen, right? So what do we do in that situation? Do we just announce the class? Yeah, our classmate, uh, will take breaks.
So thank you for the good question. Honestly, for myself, I don't recommend announcing that to the class because it can be related to disclosure, right? So if you feel like it's too many breaks, that's a really good interactive process where just come back and talk to us confidentially. It should be something that nobody even really notices. It's just something that the student needs and that we really want the student to have, right? If the student has that, it's because they really need it. They really, really need it. I've seen students who don't have that accommodation yet, and they need it, and how like painful it is, and how much of a barrier it is for them. And then I've seen them really thrive once that's on board. And so if it's becoming a distraction, just tell me. Just email me, email SSD and we can work through that together as part of the interactive process, right? Maybe it's that's just the wrong accommodation for that student. Maybe they need something else. We don't know yet, because it's a hypothetical, but in a real life situation, it pertains to a real life student. And, I can look at everything and we can work through some options. Maybe it's disability related counseling, right? Maybe it's a referral to additional resources on campus, right? So there's many different reasons that might be happening related to that individual student and that individual case, whether like physical or mental health. And so I would say that the first best thing would be let it happen for that day and then just shoot me an email right after class and then we can work through it together. With that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop recording so that we have a confidential Q&A. Thank you everyone for your time today. Thank you for everyone checking out the recording later. AJ, I think you